Oh, much better. That's just a bit tight. Alright guys, so today I'm going to tell you guys about my first ever experience doing MMA. Woo! So, I'm taking that off. She's getting way too hot. My first ever experience doing MMA was whenever I was 8 years old. Yeah, pretty young age, but I was a little rough around the edges when I was younger. I'd be causing so much trouble. Especially like I used to like crawl into like the neighbor's lawn and like play with their like stuff. And I got in a lot of trouble for that. So I was always a rambunctious kid, always like acting on impulse like an animal. And the thing I was known for was doing headbutts. I would headbutt everything. Have you ever seen like a Demon Slayer? You know, like a Inosuke running into trees? That's me as a kid. I'd headbutt the shit out of anything. I see something, I'd headbutt it. I headbutt my mother whenever I was like 4. Almost broke her nose. Yeah, I was a very angry and impulsive kid. Luckily, I kind of grew out of that for the most part, but you know. So, whenever I first started MMA, my dad took me, right. We were going. He's like, "Son, you need to get rid of that rambunctious energy." And then just like, "Okay, Dad." And I wasn't really too big into sports. I didn't really like watch anything. What I would do as a kid, I would like run around, and I would get in trees and stuff, and then I would like, yeah, it was basically just run around like playing in trees, riding my bike and stuff. That's mostly what I did as a kid. And so he takes me to my first MMA lesson, and the place is huge. It's like this huge dojo. The way the MMA like place was like set up, it had like the MMA area, and then they would switch out with like the karate people. So it was like primarily kind of like a dojo, but with mats. And my first like lesson was that the instructor's son took me over to the mat, and he gets on top of me and he puts me in a hold. He puts me in like, what did he put me in? He might have been in full mount. And like full mount, for those of you who don't know, is the position they get on you and they're like this. So, and then I was like this, and he was like this. And he was like really low like this. And then he asked me, how do you get out of this hold now that you can't use your arms? And then my little ass was like, headbutt, and I slammed my damn forehead into his nose. Yeah, so luckily it didn't really cause any damage. It was just the fact that he didn't see it coming, and so like it managed to get him. Okay, so this guy, he was like 15. So this is like 8-year-old me headbutting a 15-year-old. So yeah, I definitely didn't damage him for sure. It was just more like I like startled him. And I remember like the coach was like, "Dude, you can't be doing that, man. You can't be throwing headbutts." And I was like, please, it was just an accident. And I was crying. I felt so bad. I was I swear. So yeah, that was the first day, and then the second time I came, I was going up against like these jiu-jitsu kids that have been doing it, but like because even as a kid, like I would grind every day. I would go out and do physical activity, and so like this guy gets on me and does like a rear naked choke. So he puts me in this hole, and I'm like, but I managed to like put my chin in, and so he was trying to choke me, but I was like standing up, so he had me in the back, right? He was like on my back. And he's like getting it. I was just like standing, and I was like trying to get him off. So I was like shaking him off, and like trying to get it off. And then I was about to like slam down, and then my coach was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" You had to like stop the match because like I was about to like slam this kid, and I was like so like aggressive. I thought we were going all out, and it was just like I didn't understand as a kid the difference between like sparring and actual fighting, and like that's like a huge thing when it comes to like MMA. Is like you have to understand when to go all out. And that just wasn't the time. Most of the time, whenever you like fighting, especially like sparring, whenever it comes to like striking and stuff, but jiu-jitsu grappling, you can go harder. But you need to have restraint. Otherwise, you're just gonna hurt your opponent, and then no one's gonna spar with you. So that was the second time. Flash forward like a year or two later, because after that, I fell out of a tree and broke and like almost ruptured my spleen. So I basically like ruptured my spleen. So for like a year, I couldn't do physical activity. But that's a story for another time. Anyways, so I finally get back to MMA, finally chilling out. My sister joins. So my sister Amy was really, really, really good at jiu-jitsu. In fact, we were doing. Yeah, our sensei, Mr. Troy, was teaching us jiu-jitsu, so like grappling style. So I was mostly grappling for like 10 years. Like after that, I just grappled on and on for 10 years. So I'm primarily a grappler. And so whenever we would spar, Amy would usually win because she also did dance. So she was like super flexible. And then the second thing is that because she was flexible, she would get me in like these holds. And because it's jiu-jitsu, you can't strike. You have to like kind of manhandle and like try to wrestle your way into like a position. So she would get me in triangles, arm bars and stuff. And also like my sister's older than me. So she was like 2 to 3 years older. So I was like 10, she was like 13. So she was hitting puberty. I was like, Amy, please. I was still like a little boy, you know how it is. So she usually won for the most part. Oh, and then we got this new guy, and I think his name was Justin or some shit. But he was like this kid that was like kind of pudgy. But so he would always, whenever he sparred, because Mr. Troy always made me go against like bigger people, so I can like surpass my limits and shit, you know, plus ultra and whatever. So he would make me fight this guy, and this guy would always get his hands and go like this, and then he wouldn't do anything, and that pissed me off because usually I got into full mount. So I would get into full mount, and I was like, oh shit, what do I do from here? Because you can't punch him, right? Because this is jiu-jitsu. And so he would just be on the ground being like, he'd be smiling too. That boy would be smiling. He'd be smiling. He'd be like, because he knew I couldn't do anything. Because this guy was bigger, so I wouldn't be able to like pull his arms off. So he'd be doing this, and I couldn't submit him. So there would be multiple rounds where I would just get in the dominant position. I'd be looking at Mr. Troy being like, the fuck am I supposed to do, man? Well, he'd just be like, pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. I ain't gonna hold it to you, that got me good. And then eventually, like, I started, you know, hitting my growth spurt, and I just overpowered and ripped his arms off. And then he never came back. He had like an issue with like losing, so he just like once he lost too much, he just never came back. So flash forward, now in middle school. Now I'm like really good at grappling. So I would go against this guy called Nate. He was like one of our friends too. He was really good. He was the sensei's son. And I finally, like, Nate's been clapping my cheeks for years, man. It's been rough meeting me. Like MMA, I enjoyed the experience, but so we would go, and me and Nate, he would usually win. Let's see, the hierarchy, it was Amy was better, the best, then Nate, then me. Me and Nate were hitting our growth spurts, and then Amy's technique wasn't enough to keep up with us, just because we worked out and shit. So then the hierarchy switched. So Nate was the best. I don't know. Shit, I guess you go Nate, then me, then Amy. But Amy had the best technique, but we were too strong. So me and Nate went on like the sparring match for like 10 minutes. Was it 10 minutes? No, it was 15. It was like 15, 20 minutes. It was like almost half an hour. And we were going at it because our like stamina was like really good. Because I was been doing track and stuff. I had athletics. I was doing powerlifting. And I'm pretty sure he was doing sports too. I don't remember what sports he was. But anyways, he would get me in a position. I managed to like use my sweat to like slide and stuff. I was a slimy little partner, man. I slimed all over them. And so that was the sparring experience I had. It was like I got really good at jiu-jitsu. And then high school hits, and then I stopped going as much. And so I started getting really rusty. Because I would be doing other sports in high school, so I didn't have time for MMA. So then my sister got really good at standing, like just like, you know, boxing and like Muay Thai and stuff. And then I came back a while later, and then my sister was getting ready for like her first match, which is crazy. And she was doing her sparring. And then my other sister Lauren came, and then we started going, and I almost knocked Lauren out on accident. And then ever since then, Mr. Choi wouldn't let me spar with my sisters. So I think he just he figured that it was just too much at that point. Yeah, and then now that like COVID has kind of settled down, I finally started going back and been working up my upstanding. My jiu-jitsu is still good, but it's not as good as I was in middle school. I was a greasy man. I was sliding everywhere. I'd be getting holds. I was really good at like choke holds and stuff, like Von Flu's. So anyways, that has been my MMA experience. It's been a wild ride, and I don't plan on stopping. That's like my sport. It's really fun. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Adios.